Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Practical Side. The Practical Side is a show where we discuss the practical side of law, whether it is the financial aspects or the tax laws or the company law, economic laws, any type of laws. And joining me today is a special guest, CA Shankar M. Hello, Shankar, and welcome to our show.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you for inviting me to your platform.
Yeah, so we are happy you're here. So today, CA Shankar will be sharing with us the practical side of the critical aspects of filing income tax returns. So income tax returns may come across as something very simple, but there are a lot of critical things. If you analyze in depth, that it is a very big field in itself. And to share the expert knowledge, we have Shankar. Before we go ahead with the questions, let me briefly introduce CA Shankar M. CA Shankar M is a chartered accountant with more than 13 years experience. He has his own firm based out of Bangalore. He has also done his bachelor's in commerce and also the LLB course. So he can bring in the legal side also in his CA practice. And CA Shankar has been catering to different clients, whether it is corporates, individuals, partnerships, all kinds of business entities. So thanks a lot again for joining. So the first question is very simple. Who should pay income tax, or who should file income tax returns? This is the first question.
Yeah. Look, thing is to file your income tax return, one needs to assess their total income. Total income here means gross total income before claiming deduction under section 80C to 80U. If your total income exceeds a maximum amount which is not chargeable to tax, that is for individual 2.5 lakhs, for the senior citizen who's attained the age of 60 years but not 80 years, he has his total income exceeds 3 lakhs. For a senior citizen who attained age of 80 years, then for him 5 lakhs. If this income, gross total income exceeds the specified limit, then the person has to require to file income tax return. And also apart from the income limit, there are certain transactions where if you are entered into those transactions or incurred certain expenditure, then you may have to require, even though your total income does not exceed the specified limit, you are still required to file income tax return. Like if you have spent 1 lakh in electricity bill, then you are required to file your income tax return, even though your total income does not exceed specified limit. And a person who has an interest in foreign assets or who's a signing authority in any of the foreign entity, he is still required to file income tax return, even though he does not have any income in India. And also the person who spends more than 2 lakhs on foreign travel for himself or any other person, he is still required to file income tax return. Apart from this, there are certain exemptions or certain benefits. If you want to take it from income tax return, you are still required to file your income tax return. Like you want to carry forward your loss, but your total income is below the threshold limit, but still you want to carry forward those losses for the subsequent year to get adjusted, then you are still required to file your income tax return within due dates. And also you want to claim your refund of excess paid taxes. Suppose your income does not attract tax, but still the person who's paying income to you might have deducted tax, or by wrongly you might have paid advance tax. In such a situation, you are required to file income tax return to claim those excess tax refund. And also, if you want to claim benefit under DTAA, double tax avoidance agreement, you are still required to file your income tax return. Apart from all these things, one person, if any person wants to file, still under the provisions of law, he is not required to file his income tax return. He can go for filing his income tax return voluntarily for the purpose of going for loan or for the track record of his income and assets. So he can still go for filing his income tax returns.
So this is the practical side of things. So even like our guest was telling, if somebody has paid 1 lakh electricity bill, even then the obligation to file the return will arise. It is not just with respect to the threshold limits, and he told many other scenarios when the income tax return should be filed. So going forward, why is it important to file the perfect income tax return in terms of the correctness and the disclosures? Because often there are many people who don't take this seriously enough and they file income tax returns with improper disclosures or insufficient disclosures, or they're not giving the right picture to the income tax department. So why is it important when you look at the overall picture and overall condition of a client?
But why income tax return has to be prepared and filed properly? Because there are various conditions and various informations has to be disclosed in the ITR returns. Certain informations are not required for a specified limit of income. So those things one needs to understand accordingly. He has to select appropriate forms. There are various forms are prescribed under the income tax law. So one needs to choose an appropriate income tax form depending on his nature of income, types of incomes, and depending on the information which he is compulsorily required to provide in the income tax return. And also, one needs to disclose correctly income under the respective heads. Suppose a person who is supposed to declare a particular head, but he has declared in some other head, he might lose certain deductions or benefit which are available in particular heads. And also, there may be a chance that he may claim wrong deductions or exemptions. So those may warrant notices from income tax department. Apart from that, before filing his income tax return, one needs to verify his Form 16, and also he has to verify his Form 26A, which is provided by the income tax department. Once logs into his accounts, he can download the Form 26A, which is information of all incomes and taxes deducted. And also there are various other informations which are available in Form 26A, like the turnover which are reflected in GSTR returns, also reflecting in Form 26A. So one needs to, before filing this income tax return, he has to analyze all this information and he has to match with his computation. If there is any dispute or differences between his income or taxes, he needs to verify where the mistake is. If the mistake is with the computation, he has to rectify his computation. If the mistake in Form 26A, then he needs to contact the person who has uploaded that form. The person who is giving the income will deduct TDS. In such a case, if the person who has deducted the TDS made a mistake, then he has to contact that person and get it rectified. Otherwise, these issues may arise future that you may receive notices from departments. And also this is unnecessary for, even though you have disclosed proper income and taxes, still you may get notices from income tax department. To avoid all these things, one needs to reconcile before filing his income tax returns. And also in income tax return, even exempted income has to be disclosed, like interest from PPF or maturity from LIC or any other income which is exempted under the provision. Still one needs to declare in his income tax return. Otherwise, these issues may, you may receive notices for the non-disclosure of these information. And also, we have found various mistakes in disclosing this interest income. See, first one needs to get proper interest earned during the financial year, and those income he needs to classify whether a particular interest is taxable or exempted. If it's exempted, he has to disclose it in the exempted information column, and if the taxable income, he has to appropriately disclose in the income tax return. And also we need to verify with the Form 26A also. These interest information also will be available in Form 26A. He has to those information cross-verify and disclose it in the income tax return. And also there are certain situations where while filing income tax return to claim certain benefits, you may have to, along with income tax return, you may have to file certain forms. Like if you want to claim 80GG, you need to file Form 10BA. And if you want to claim relief under Section 89, you are required to file Form 10E. And for domestic companies, if they want to go for this new reduced rate of tax scheme, then first year he has to file a specified form like Form 10IC or Form 10ID. These forms has to be filed along with the income tax returns. If these forms not filed, then you may not get those benefits, even though you are eligible. For a non-filing of these accompanied forms, you may be denied of the benefits. And also, while filing your ITR form, one needs to disclose certain informations like all valid bank accounts, numbers, and other informations. And also, if you are a director in any of the company, you are still required to disclose those informations. And accordingly, the forms also will change. So that is why I've initially told that while before selecting your income tax form, you need to decide which all the information you are required to disclose. So accordingly, you have to select a proper income tax form. And apart from directorship, you are required to even disclose whether you are a partner in a firm, whether you are holding unlisted company shares. All those information has to be included in your income tax returns. And also, before filing your income tax return, you are required to pay full tax liability. If you don't pay your full tax liability before filing your income tax return, then your return may be treated as defective. So, and also, after filing your income tax return, the important aspect is to verify your income tax return, either through Aadhaar OTP or various other means like net banking or even bank account, through bank account or demat account. Even if all these not possible, still you can take a printout of the ITR form, physically sign it and send it to CPC by speed post. So by doing this, you will verify that the whatever information you have filed, it's correct and you have filed those return of income. So this is very important. If you don't verify your income tax return, then those returns will be treated as returns are not filed. Then it will be treated as you have not filed the returns, and accordingly other provisions are applicable. So one needs to decide, consider all these points before filing your income tax returns.
Okay. So now when we talk about consequences, apart from getting notice, what is the worst that can happen? Because only then the client will understand how important it is to file the correct return with the complete disclosure.
See, if you have not paid your taxes or certain informations are mismatched, sometimes you may receive your returns are defective. In such a situation, the officer may give you 15 days time to rectify those mistakes or you fulfill the information which are missing. So in such a situation, you can, within 15 days, you have to file a revised return, rectify that mistake and get it validated. You need to, then they will consider. Even then, if you within 15 days, if you have not rectified, then your returns becomes invalid and you will be treated as if you have not filed the return of income. Apart from this, if you have underreported or misreported your income, then you may receive scrutiny notices or notices from income tax department. And also for misreporting or underreporting, you may be levied a 50% or 200% penalty. For undisclosed income, you may be levied 100% to 300, minimum 100%, and 300% is the maximum penalty which will be levied on undisclosed income. Apart from this, you may levy even for delay in filing. You may be levied penalty of 5,000 up to December and a penalty of 10,000 after December before 31st March. And also, you may receive inquiries, notices. These are all unwarranted, even though you have not evaded any tax. But if, for the purpose of, for the reason that you have not disclosed proper information, you may receive notices. For that, you may have to respond to each and every notices, which will, in addition to your regular return filing, you may have to incur additional costs to comply all these notices.
Yeah, now that we know the consequences of filing incomplete returns or underreporting, like you told, so what is the role of the professional? The professional is like the chartered accountant, or some cases even a company secretary may file. So what is their role in making sure the correct return is filed?
Yeah, see, the professionals has to educate the assessees and also assist them in filing returns. The chartered accountant or any tax professionals has to analyze the complete information of the assessee, and he has to advise the client whether certain incomes are taxable or exempted and what are the information he is required to disclose in the ITR returns. And also he has to prepare a proper computation statement and along with other informations like profit and loss account, balance sheet, which assessee has to verify and he has to confirm, and he has to get a confirmation. And also the professionals has to advise the client to minimize the tax by applying or by taking the benefits which are provided under the Income Tax Act, like various deductions, by way of various deductions and exemptions. He has to advise clients to choose a proper deduction and exemption. There are certain exemptions, various conditions are prescribed. So the professionals has to analyze depending on the assessee's conditions, and yes, he has to choose a proper exemption. And also he has to advise clients what are the consequences of non-fulfilling the conditions for claiming deductions and exemptions. So he has to explain the consequences so that assessee also will take interest and he will comply all the conditions. Apart from that, one needs to, the professionals has to advise clients to minimize their litigations, or he has to advise clients that to limit the litigations or tax notices. So he has to advise client in certain situations whereas instead of going for appeal or going for litigating, there are certain situations you may advise clients to go for payment of that disputed tax and get a peaceful sleep. So these things is the important thing which professionals has to consider before filing returns, or he has to advise all these things for to each and every clients.
Okay, so now that we know what is the role of a professional, and it's a very important role to make sure the client is filing the right return, that brings me to the next question. Who should maintain the books of accounts? Should every assessee maintain it, or what are the class of people to maintain books of accounts?
See, books of accounts normally under the provisions of income tax law for business people and professionals has to maintain books of accounts if their income crosses 2.5 lakhs or total turnover crosses 25 lakhs in the last 3 preceding financial year. Any 1 year, these threshold limit crosses, then he, a businessman or professionals has to require to maintain books of accounts. And also for professionals, Income Tax Act has prescribed certain books of accounts like cash books, journal, if they are maintaining on mercantile basis of accounting, ledger, and carbon copies of invoices, and original bills of expenditures. Apart from these books, for medical profession, there are certain books, certain other additional information. So additional information also has to be maintained by the assessee, like details of patients, service rendered, and fees received, and stocks of medicines. All those informations he has to maintain along with the regular books of accounts. So at normal case, business assessees, they can maintain their regular books of account which are prepared as per the general accounting principles. So for non-maintenance of books of account, there is a penalty of 25,000 rupees. If you are required to maintain your books of accounts, then, but if you have not maintained your books of accounts, in such a situation, you have levied a penalty of 25,000 rupees. If the assessee opts for presumptive scheme, in such a situation, you may be exempted from maintenance of books of accounts. But you need to satisfy the conditions which are prescribed under the presumptive provisions. Like if you want to go for a presumptive basis, then you should be an eligible assessee. Eligible assessees are like individuals, residence individuals, residence HUF, resident partnership firm, or eligible assessees. And also it should be an eligible business like manufacturer, trader, and wholesale dealers, retailers, and job work, or service provider, who can also opt for this deduction, this presumptive income scheme. In such a situation, you no need to maintain books of accounts, but your total turnover should be less than 2 crores, and you are required to offer tax at the rate required to offer tax on 6% or 8%, as the case may be. 6% for if your transactions are if the incomes are received by through banking channels. If your incomes are received other than banking channels, then you need to offer 8% income. On that, you need to discharge your tax liability. And also, the present budget, the finance minister has exempted up to 10 crores for you don't have to go for an audit, and but you are required to fulfill the conditions like 95% of your total payments and total receipt should be through banking channels. So that you are provided up to 5% on cash transactions. Then you can, till 10 crores, you are not required to go for audit. These are the provisions relating to books of accounts. And one more thing, the books of accounts has to be maintained up to 6 years. 6 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. That means you are required to maintain 7 years books of account plus current year books of accounts. So this is must. There are in certain situations you may have to maintain more than the 6 years, where you have filed an appeal before the tribunals or any courts. In such a situation, till the disposal of your case, you may have to require to maintain your books of accounts. And also, if your case is selected for assessment and the assessment is not completed, in such a situation, till the completion of your assessment, you have to require to maintain your books of accounts.
Okay. Now that we know about books of accounts, what should the assessee do for proper tax planning so that he can reduce his tax burden?
See, tax planning, one needs to analyze his information, and accordingly he has to see under various income heads or various provisions, what are the benefits he is getting. So that he needs to plan in advance before start of the financial year. So according to his nature of business and according to the nature of incomes, he has to plan based on the provisions which are available to claim deduction and exemptions. So he has to consult a professionals for his tax planning, and he has to discuss with professionals, and he need to get a better understanding of what are the exemptions are available under the provisions and what are the conditions which are prescribed to claim those deductions or exemptions. These things he needs to discuss with the professionals, and accordingly he has to decide which deductions or which exemption he has to claim under the provisions of law. And also, before executing any high value transaction or any big transactions, one needs to understand what are the tax implications. So he has to consult a professional and discuss what are the tax implications, and he has to plan accordingly what are the exemptions are available or deductions are available. Accordingly, he has to finalize his transactions. And also every year, these government policies and provisions keep changing and amending. So he needs to discuss with the professional every year before the start of the financial year and understand what are the changes, government policy changes, and what are the amendments, and what are the amendments which affects his business or nature of income, and accordingly he has to plan. And also, one needs to get maximum benefit out of the various provisions by investing, like ATC investments. There are normal ATC deductions are 1.5 lakh, but if you invest in national pension scheme, you get an additional 50% deduction, 50,000 deduction. So those provisions and deductions you need to understand. Accordingly, you have to plan, which not only saves your tax, but also it maximizes your wealth. And also you get a good corpus at your retirement time. So these are the informations, these are the points which one needs to consider for his tax planning.
What are the documents that the income tax department will scrutinize?
See, normally the income tax returns are paperless. So you don't have to submit any information or any documentary evidences while filing your income tax returns. But in certain situations, or there is a mismatch in your information and information which are available at the income tax side. So in such a situation, you may call for clarification, or your case may be selected for scrutiny assessment. In such a situation, you have to produce all the documents which are in support of your claim and income. See, income tax can ask any documents which are relevant for the income tax computation and claiming deductions, like agreements, books of accounts, receipts, payment confirmations, original bills, any information which have an impact on your computation or books of accounts, which an assessing officer can call for verification. In such a situation, it is the duty of the assessee to produce those information. And if the informations are correct, then there is no problem. See, many people will they will think that if they receive a scrutiny notice, it is a crime. It is not like that. There are certain, because these scrutiny notices are issued based on a computer system which selects based on certain criteria. Now, there are certain cases are selected on random basis. There are certain cases are selected on based on certain information which are available in the income tax department. So one needs to analyze for what purpose these notices have been served, and accordingly those informations he has to compile before the income tax sends a list. He can upload those informations online.
Okay. Now that we know that, there's one more general question which is not related to exactly the returns. Overall, if you see last 5 to 6 years at least, government is doing a lot of changes in the tax regulation. And we have been reading reports of how the central government is very keen on using artificial intelligence, blockchain technology. They have already implemented many things. So what are they doing in general? And how will it impact tax regulation? That big picture, if you can give us, it will really help to understand the future.
See, the income tax department is very rapid in adopting these changes, technological changes. So the present government is adopting all the technological things, and they are supervising all the tax evasions, misreporting, underreporting. And this is not the today's implementation. From so many years, the income tax department is entering into MOUs, and they have brought out so many provisions like TDS provisions, TCS provisions, and also annual information report. Various government agencies and various banks and mutual fund institutions, companies, and tax audit assessees has to file annual information reports. See, income tax department is asking for PAN numbers from the opening of your bank account till you buy a jewelry. The income tax is asking PAN numbers on various thresholds. So these informations are collected by each and every organization. They are filing an annual information to the income tax department. These informations are compiled by the income tax department, and they are doing a 360-degree profiling of each and every individual assessees, and they're comparing with the income tax return which are filed by the assessee. If there is any variances like expenditures are more but income declared is very less, or underreporting, misreporting, or any high value transactions, under these circumstances, income tax is analyzing your information and they are sending notices. See, recently, even demonetization, the government has issued nearly about 18 lakhs notices for the purpose of depositing of this cash. These informations are compiled through banking annual informations, and they're sending notices. And wherever there's a mismatch with income and these informations, they are calling for assessments, and they are verifying each and every, and these information they will verify in detail. And if there is any tax evasion, you may land up in penalty and interest and other even prosecute. The department also has a power to prosecute.
Okay.
And
now
also,
that we know,
yeah, government is implementing artificial intelligence. Not only artificial intelligence, even government is adopting various other technological advancement. Like even one of the cases recently, I have read in newspaper where the Delhi government, Delhi income tax department has taken a help from this satellite, and they have identified the tax evasion of agriculture income.
Okay.
So that is the level of income tax they are working, and they're identifying these tax evasion cases. And also the government is not only using this artificial intelligence for finding out tax evasion or these defaulters. And also the department, the income tax department is improving their system, like processing through computerized. So there is no manual interference. And also the government, recently they have introduced JETPAT process, where your income tax, there are certain forms that are selected. Maybe this will be even applied for all the forms in future, where file your returns and within 15 minutes, your return will get processed. So that is the kind of level they are adopting technologies. So, and so also not only they are comparing your incomes, they are also analyzing the pattern of filing, spending. They are getting a lot of information. They're analyzing through the help of data analytics and other technology, and they're finding out all tax evaders. And the government revenue is also increasing. That is what the finance minister has said in this recent budget, that this year there is no change in the tax slab, but still they have a confidence that by using this artificial intelligence and other technological advancement, they are like projecting that they can collect more taxes this financial year.
Yes. So I think this is the major shift for the government, or the major advantage for the government, because even just let us say 5 or 10 years ago, these technologies were not available, or even if it was available, government had not taken it to such a level where they're going to adopt it. But like you said, whether it is artificial intelligence, blockchain, and you were mentioning about satellite images being used to for people who are like not declaring agricultural income, or they are evading the taxes, and also they're using social media like your Facebook post, and you go for a foreign trip. And so income tax department is really far ahead as compared to, let us say, judiciary is generally not catching up as fast with the technology, but income tax department is really unbelievable in terms of the technologies which you are telling, which they are adopting. That's really nice to know. So that brings me to a kind of connected question. Now everybody has heard about this faceless compliance, and they've read in the newspaper. In general, they'll know there'll be limited physical interaction, there'll be faceless compliance. But structurally, what is this faceless compliance? How does it work? So if you could share that, it will really help the audience.
Yeah, this faceless assessment, and or even the government has introduced even faceless appeal also. See,
Okay.
this will eliminate the human interference. And also, that assessees also will save a lot of time, because even department also, they can end corruption, because this system, how it works is, the assessee and department, there is no connection. The face-to-face connection is removed, because under the faceless scheme, the government has introduced certain departments. The first important the depart cell is the National E-Assessment Center, which is the main department which has an interaction with the assessees. Behind this National E-Assessment Cell, various regional E-Assessment cells are established. Under each regional assessment cell is a jurisdictional assessment unit. Under this national regional e-assessment cell, there are 4 units are established. One is assessment unit, verification units, technical and legal unit, and review unit. How this e-assessment works means, the cases are selected based on artificial intelligence and other technological advancement. They select the cases where which cases they have to select for assessment. They will select, and this will be based on computer allotment. It will be allotted to each and every regional assessments, and these regional assessment will in turn send the cases to the assessment units. And National E-Assessment Cell is the main interface between department and the assessees. This National E-Assessment Cell will send the notice to the assessee, and no assessee has to respond to those notices and to the National E-Assessment Cell only. Once the National E-Assessment Cell receives these notices, they will forward the concerned assessment units. Then assessment units will verify all the informations which are submitted by the assessee, and in addition to that, if any other information is required, then again the assessment unit requests additional information through the National E-Assessment Center. Again, National E-Assessment Center will send a notice to the assessee asking for additional information. Then assessee has to submit these additional informations to the National E-Assessment Center. And also, if in earlier assessment scheme, it may so happen that if the assessing officer doesn't have particular knowledge, particular provisions, then the order passed by the assessing authority may go wrong due to various reasons, because he may be not having the knowledge of capital gain. In such a situation, he may make mistake. Not only that, there are various technical mistakes, there are various legal mistakes. Even these assessment officer were doing it. So these, because of these small and technical mistakes, assessees may challenge in the higher forum and also before the high courts and Supreme Courts. And these, because of those mistakes, the complete assessments orders might have been quashed by these courts and higher forums. So these were the major challenges for the department. Now, because of this reason, there is one more unit under the assessment unit that is called legal and technical unit, where assessing officer lacking any technical or legal issue, he may seek help from these units. He has to request those help through the National E-Assessment Center, and National E-Assessment Center will coordinate with the technical and legal unit and get the information, or the technical and legal department will help the assessee in completing the assessment. Not only that, if in certain assessments, the department may has to do certain verification like physical verification of the property or some other verification he has to do it. In such a situation, assessment unit may request National E-Assessment Center for verification unit to do the activities. In such a situation, National E-Assessment Cell will allot the cases for verification and all other aspects. And once they submit report to the National E-Assessment Cell, in turn, National E-Assessment Cell will forward the reports to the assessment unit. Based on all the information, the assessment unit will conclude the assessment and prepare a draft assessment order. And again, this draft assessment order will be sent to National E-Assessment Center. National E-Assessment Center, this draft order will be sent to review unit for review of these draft assessment order before sending these order to the assessee. So this review unit will verify in all angles, legal aspects and other technical aspects, everything they will review it, and they will, if everything is fine, they will send it for final order. Or if there is any mistake, they will advise the assessment unit to make a suitable modification. And again, that National Assessment Center will send those advice of this review unit to the assessment unit. Then assessment unit, again, they will, based on the advice given by the review unit, they will modify the draft assessment order. Again, they will send it to the National E-Assessment Center. Once again, it will be sent to review unit. Once review unit is confirmed everything is fine, they will send the draft assessment order to the assessee or show cause notice to the assessee. Then after receiving the show cause or draft assessment order, assessee can object or file his objection or his any other grievances he can raise. And after considering all these issues, grievances, objections, finally they will pass the final assessment order. So here the corruption will be eliminated, the human interaction will be eliminated, and also it is a teamwork, because every team, and each team is specialized in its own department. So they will verify, all the teams will verify one particular assessment order, and you can expect a qualified assessment orders. And also litigation will come down, and also government, because of all these changes, they will have a good revenue.
Okay. So the main thing which we can understand with this faceless assessment is that the government will be working with specialized teams, and they'll be working as a team. They'll be working in concert, whereby the corruption will reduce, and most importantly, the government revenue will increase, litigation will reduce. So these are the benefits in the future. Yes, there may be some challenges in the transition period now and things like that. But I think the way you explained all the departments and how they're connected and how they're going to work together, people will get a clear picture about this faceless assessment and not just the small reports they read in the newspaper. Now, the next thing we were talking initially also about being more people are filing the returns, and the tax compliance is improving as a whole. Government revenue is also increasing. So is there any statistics about how many people are filing the returns? That is one question. Second part of the same question is, what is CBDT Income Tax Department doing to increase the tax compliance as a whole?
See, the department has each and every statistic information, but actually I cannot give you any information because I don't have a proper statistical information. But government department has each and every statistic, like how many people are showing the rental income, how many people are salaried employees, how many people are below 10 lakh income, how many people are 10 to 50 lakh, how many people are above 50 lakhs, each and every information they can analyze it. Even for budget preparation, the government can quantify, if they give certain benefits, what is the loss to the government. They can easily quantify because of all these statistics. See, and also the government, because of, government has introduced faceless assessment and faceless appeal also in 2020 September. They've launched even faceless appeal also. The commissioner appeal is also faceless. Now, under the present budget, the finance minister announced that even a tax tribunal also will be faceless in future. And also the government has come out with pre-filling information. See, once you log into your income tax account, select a particular form, all the information will be popped up. That means you don't have to fill information, because income tax has a lot of information. Based on those information, automatically it gets popped up in your income tax return. So you need to verify whether those informations are correct. And if there is anything mistake, you need to recheck and you have to file your income tax return. That is the way the government is moving ahead. And also there are various provisions they are bringing into income tax statute, and they want to find out all tax evaders. Now the government is concentrating on high tax evasion cases. So that is why they are bringing into this TDS on purchases. If the purchaser is not, the TDS is not applicable for the purchaser, then they are going for the seller, where seller has to collect TCS. And also not only that, even now the government has come out with one more provision in so many situations where in last 3-4 years, there are certain transactions, PAN number was mandatory. Many people were using their PAN number, they were providing PAN number, and the person who's paying the income were deducting tax. But these people, even after deducting TDS, they were not disclosing their income tax. They were not filing their income tax without, and they were just managing. Now the government has come out with a new provision where government is saying that if the person who has not filed for last 2 years return, then the TDS rate will be doubled. So the government is trying to minimize all non-disclosure, disclosure or under-reporting, misreporting, all those things. Now each and every people will start filing returns. Why? Because if you don't file the return, his TDS rate will be double the rate. So it becomes everybody, because now the percentage of filing is very less in India. Those who are filing returns, it's very less. Even I can say it is less than 1%, 1 to 3%, within that range. So, and also more than 10 lakhs people declaring, that is also very less. Now the government is every year there are various numbers of cars are sold, and many people are going for foreign travel, and various cash deposit. During the demonetization, government has observed so many cash deposits, but still the filing statistics, if they take, it's very less. So that is why they are bringing new provisions to tackle all this non-filers and under-reporting. And also the government is trying to improve the services to the taxpayer by introducing JETPAT processing, and also they are doing 360-degree profiling of an assessee, because it becomes easy for assessment to complete, because all the information of an particular assessee in one place, then it becomes easy for assessing officer to complete the assessee base, because all the information relating to a particular PAN number will be consolidated, and assessing officer can compare with the income tax return and those information. It becomes very easy, and if there is any tax evasion, easily they can find out and they can initiate the penalty and other proceedings. Wow. And also the government has come out with one more e-portal for lodging complaints. Anyone can lodge complaints with respect to tax evasion cases and any other information with regard to money laundering and all. So this is a new thing where anybody can go on that website and file a complaint. The department will give you a code number, and those informations will not be disclosed to any other person. And accordingly, they will investigate the case and they will try to initiate the proceedings in case of misreporting, underreporting, or non-disclosure of income.
Okay. So it's actually very interesting facts which you shared. Very few people, end of the day, are still filing the income tax return. You are saying 1 to 3%. Let us say even if it is 5%, that is nothing. And there is such a huge scope both for the government to collect revenue and to make sure that people are abiding by the laws and paying their taxes honestly. At the same time, there's a huge opportunity for professionals because with all the technology which the government is using and the faceless assessment and making it more strict, and whereby it is encouraging or motivating, or some people out of fear they're starting to file the returns. So if more and more people are going to file the return, also this has to be filed in the right order with all the perfection which you were sharing in this entire discussion. Are there enough professionals with the right knowledge to file these returns is the question. So with this context, my thing is, because most of our audience are company secretary students, and in CS course we have quite a lot of taxation, whether it is income tax in the executive level, whether it is advanced tax in the CS final or professional level, it is there. Can CS students file income tax return with the right knowledge? If yes, how should they prepare themselves? How should they equip themselves with the complete knowledge? If you could please share these thoughts.
Yeah. Alok, company secretaries, they'll be studying this income tax law in 2 years, they're in executive level and professional level. See, they will be having a good knowledge. Thing is, from after demonetization, we have observed is the number of filers are increased because of information, which are the kind of information income tax department is getting, and they're analyzing and sending notices. Many people are, because of their fear and because of the notices, the compliance is increasing. And also, I have seen many advocates also, they're doing this filing work, income tax filing work, not only advocates, even a BCom graduate who's having a little bit experience, they're opening an office as auditor and tax practitioner, and they're filing their returns. So why can't a company secretary can take up this job? Definitely they can do it, because they will be undergoing training in 2 years. And so definitely they can take up this profession for filing this returns, and they can do the services. There is plenty of opportunity, because even next another 2-3 years, this return filers definitely will get increased. So that is the kind of work backend is going on. So now it may so happen that if you don't file your return, tomorrow it may be very difficult to defend yourself whether whatever income you earn is a tax paid income, or whether there is any problem. So it may so happen tomorrow that each and every individual may have to prepare books of accounts for the purpose of filing their income tax return. And also they have to defend themselves that they have disclosed all the income, and whatever their earnings are genuine income. So to defend themselves, they have to maintain books of account. So this will increase return filing. Company secretaries will have a good scope in this area. So
how
only
should
thing
they
is,
equip themselves?
yeah, one needs to have thorough knowledge of income tax. They should know each and every provision. It is very difficult to understand each and every provision. At least one reading is must, and the all heads, 5 heads of income, various deductions available under each respective head, various exemptions, various deductions, and other provisions. Once they have a good knowledge, then they can start the practice. As and when they progress, or every year they'll be keep learning. It is not that after acquiring all the knowledge you need to start. You have a basic understanding and start practicing, so that gradually you will
With experience
improve
you
your
can
knowledge.
learn.
And also it may so happen that you may stuck up in certain situation. You have to either you have to consult your friends or senior professionals. In certain cases you may not be able to handle it. In certain situation you take the help of seniors or friends, and you can get it solved. Only thing is that is you need to treat that as your learning, and you need to get equipped. And also you should have a proper software which will minimize your basic computational requirement, and there are certain mistakes will be easily identified through this system. So that will take care of certain aspects. So one needs to have a good software. There are various softwares available in the market. So you can take a trial, and one software you can adopt it and you can use that. And also apart from that, you need to train your staff. If you have a staff, then you need to train them, use all technological advancements, so that your work will be minimized and you have a good control over your profession. So these are the important aspects one needs to consider. He wants to come for this profession.
Okay, I think that was really good information. So it is not necessary that only a chartered accountant should do this. Of course, chartered accountants are doing it with practice and lot of knowledge, and they are equipped with it. But despite all that, though there are so many CAs, there is more people who are filing the returns. So the rate of new CAs coming in is not going to be as fast as the rate of people who are going to file the returns. So it is time that even company secretaries or any other professional get the thorough knowledge, because there is, you can simply start, but without knowledge it is going to hurt your practice. So like CA Shankar has shared with us, if you are thorough with the income tax provision, start with the small simple cases. With experience you'll learn, you'll get more experience, and also you can definitely seek guidance when you are stuck with seniors or chartered accountants or anyone who knows the subject very well. It can be done. So definitely it is one of the field of the future. So don't think that just filing income tax return is some small thing. It can be a very big field. Not only you're going to earn money, but you're going to help the client to do the proper tax planning, so that tax management, so that they don't evade the taxes. So it's a win-win for everyone. Government gets revenues what it deserves. The SSC does the proper tax planning within the framework of law, within the framework of what is allowed. This is the advantage, and there's a huge scope in terms of the field in the future also. Like as you were telling, Shankar, I felt that there's also a huge need for training the professionals, because there is no proper forum, there is no proper platform to train people who want to file income tax return. It is more out of practice, of trial and error. But a structured training is something we can definitely think about, and that should be the future, because that need is definitely there. From what I had in the discussion, that's what I could make out.
Yes, yeah, look, it's true, Alok.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I think we are coming to the end of the practical side. A very, very interesting episode where we discussed everything about the Income Tax Act, especially with the angle of the income tax return filing, which is usually seen as a simple thing. But after watching this discussion, I'm sure you understand that it's a huge field, whether the government with the new technologies is coming about, or more people are filing the income tax return, the need for professionals to be equipped. It's a thing which you should watch about. And we really thank CA Shankar for joining us in this discussion. We look forward to having you, sir, in the future discussions on different topics of law. Thanks for coming to the practical side.
Thank you, Alok.
Thank you. So, dear students, that was the practical side with CA Shankar discussing the critical aspects of filing the income tax return. For more such episodes, please tune into Excel Academy, where you can watch different areas of law with different experts. Thank you and all the best to you.